In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at up and down temperatures. There will be times of severe heat as we've dealt with recently. Maybe not as extreme, but definitely on the severe end. 90s plus, a lot of places getting close to 100 or even over it at times. But there will be some cooldowns in there, and one in particular we are concerned about, not because the temperatures will be, concerningly cold, but more so for the intensity of the cold front that would be bringing that one through. Definitely a lot of instability along there, severe weather concerns, and certainly a lot of thunderstorm concerns at the very least with that. So we're going to be discussing all of these things today, alongside the tropics, where we now have a threat nearby Florida and off the southeast coast, which is definitely interesting. That is more of a longer range risk, but the National Hurricane Center is pointing it out. And we do have Tropical Storm Barry, as we predicted would probably happen in yesterday's video. So we're going to be discussing those things as well. So let's take a look at the past 3 days of temperatures real quickly. And we could see that a lot of these areas have still averaged really well above average, but it's not quite as extreme as it once was. And we even have areas in the upper Midwest, northern Great Lakes, as well as portions of the Mid-Atlantic up into New England that have been cooler than normal over the last 3 days, which is definitely very, very different than things were just a few days ago. Earlier this previous week, much different than this. So definitely some big time changes there in the east. So let's take a look at these upcoming temperatures, and we can see by this afternoon and evening, what we've kind of dealt with is average to maybe slightly above or slightly below average temperatures, but really a pretty neutral pattern in the east overall. But it's really hard to say that because areas in northern Ohio have been well above average, and then areas in southern Ohio have been average to below average. So it really varies, not even just state to state, but portion of state to portion of state, maybe even county to county. So again, very tough to say in a lot of these cases for your particular location. By Monday afternoon, a lot of the same. The more eastern areas there, like the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, are above average. And then the more western areas, like the Plains, are below average. Whereas the West overall, as we look at the West Coast, is pretty well above normal. And we call this a positive PNA when we have these above normal temperatures there. And this actually forces a lot of the cooler temperatures down into the eastern states. So this all kind of makes sense. As we keep going towards Tuesday, it's a little more cut and dry. I mean, this warmer air mass, the positive PNA, really takes hold, and we have pretty confidently below average temperatures here in the east for the first time in a while, where at least 90% of these areas are below normal. Taking a look at Wednesday, it is similar, a little warmer. Thursday, the 3rd of July, warming up in the east, and this is probably happening as some cooler temperatures are starting to work their way into the west, so that positive PNA is breaking up by this Thursday, the 3rd time frame. Friday, the 4th, clearly cool along that western seaboard, so again, we call this a negative PNA, and this forces the opposite, warmer temperatures to prevail, usually a Gulf flow. And interesting to note, but if we have this tropical concern, it might have some northward flow with it because of that particular change out west. We are watching this area for potential development over the next 7 days. The next 48 hours, we're not really seeing any chances of development there. Again, it's mostly between hours 48 and then the 7-day mark, where we're starting to get some concerns that we might get some tropical low or tropical cyclone of some sort trying to develop in these areas. By the time we're reaching Saturday, the 5th, very warm in the east. That prevails through Sunday the 6th. Monday the 7th, this might be a heat wave for some areas. If you didn't know, you need 90 degrees for at least 3 days in a row to be considered a heat wave. If we have above normal temperatures for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, a lot of these areas might hit that quota. So keep that in mind. Even as we look towards Tuesday, there is some cooler blotches in there, but overall, a lot of these areas holding on to those very hot temperatures. Wednesday the 9th is interesting because there's still a lot of warmth here in the east, but we see big changes out west. Huge warming along this western area. So a positive PNA taking back over, and we get this really rich, cool air mass up here in eastern Canada that is heading southward. This is the second or third day in a row where these model runs have suggested this. And again, with this type of situation, you would have a cold front separating these very, very hot and humid conditions from these much cooler and drier conditions to the north. And that battle between those two air masses causes a whole lot of instability in these areas, and certainly would present the threat of thunderstorm activity and even severe weather. By the time we're reaching Thursday the 10th, and keep in mind this is the long range, but this cold front would be located more around the center of these eastern states. And then by Friday, you can see that the east is basically taken over by, again, slightly below normal temperatures to pretty well below normal temperatures, especially in the greens where we're 10 degrees below normal. That might mean 80 degrees, 77 degrees, something very nice like that. So this isn't something to be concerned about as far as the temperatures. It's almost something to hope for. I think upper 70s, lower 80s are beautiful. I mean, that's about as good as it gets in the summertime for a lot of these areas. So I think almost everybody would definitely appreciate a air mass like that. Saturday the 12th is very similar. Sunday the 13th for some areas. And then by the end of the model run, we reach a very inconclusive point where we have some cooler, some warmth in the west, and really the east is the same, some warmer, some cooler. So very inconclusive. This is at the very, very end, so this is pretty much the least confident point in the entire model run, so definitely take it with a grain of salt. Looking at some of this storminess, we do see a pretty big surge of it. Here's this evening, Sunday night, and we see a lot of activity, again, for basically everywhere east of the Rockies. But again, what I mean by everywhere is, for the most part, there's chances everywhere, but we do see these drier pockets showing up in different areas. So your house might not see rain, but that doesn't mean that this entire blob that we've drawn isn't overall pretty active. So keep that in mind. The summertime is very tough because we get very macro in the scale of things. When we're looking at wintertime systems, they're large scale low pressure systems that are very, very simplistic. We get much more complex weather that's all over the place like this in the summer that makes things much tougher. Looking towards tomorrow afternoon on Monday the 30th, same thing, very active in the east. Tuesday the 1st, very active in the east, but especially along that immediate east coast in areas maybe along the Appalachian Mountain Range there would be the pinpoint location to really watch for. Tuesday the 1st there. Wednesday the 2nd, again, it's that southeast area, is kind of around the time we'd be watching for potential development. We have a lot of moisture in there. The flow is definitely something along these lines. So if you could latch onto that, you would get more of a up that southeast coast track. And it's worth noting that climate-wise, June and July systems tend to take this type of track where they develop perhaps in the Gulf and then track up this kind of southeastern area. Typically not a hurricane. Typically these would be tropical depressions or tropical storms. Bring quite a bit of rain, quite a bit of wind, but we're not talking about something super, super catastrophic here. We are talking about dangerous storms, but not those hurricane level systems typically. Of course, I don't want to promise that or guarantee that, but that is typically what you would expect to see in June, July timeframe as far as the tropical season. Thursday the 3rd, I mean, same thing. We've got this moisture around. It could really pop off anywhere. We don't see it on this model run, I don't think, here, but could happen. There is that chance. It's relatively low. I think we have a 30% chance of that happening at this point, so there's more odds that it won't than it will, but that isn't unheard of, and actually it is quite common for June, July to see a system such as that one. For Friday the 4th of July here, we get really, really beautiful here along the east. Really, the biggest concerns would be for northern New England and then Florida, but everywhere in between looks really, really good. The west coast also looking really good. It's mostly these Rockies and plains and maybe the upper Midwest where we're concerned about precipitation that might definitely interfere with firework displays that evening. Keep that in mind. As we move towards Saturday the 5th, we get a more large-scale system, much more winter-like we were talking about earlier here. 994 over south central Canada. Definitely, you have this dragging cold front, a little bit of a warm front look here, and this would spell severe weather and definitely thunderstorm activity in this Midwest area. Sunday the 6th, that system moves up into northeastern Canada, moving really quickly northward. So we do get that streak of this cold front, but that system is well to the north. As we keep going, I want to take us towards Tuesday the 8th. I mean, we're left with some activity for the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast areas. Wednesday the 9th here would be right around that time that we are seeing cooler air start to spill in to these eastern states in a more ridge, high pressure system out west. So again, this is that instability I was talking about where we get a lot of activity in the boundary area. Thursday the 10th, same thing. We're seeing that clear-cut sign of a cold front in there. Lots of activity along that area. And as we move on towards Friday the 11th, that moves further and further south, down towards the deeper southeast and deep south in general. Saturday the 12th, it really sticks around for those areas, and really through the end of the model run. Maybe even leaving us off with another tropical risk towards the midway point of July. Definitely take that with a grain of salt because this is definitely a very obscure, very specific detail, and this is very far into the model run. So we take this as a signal that maybe we get back into a pattern that supports something like this, but don't take it as gospel because we're at hours 360 here on the European model in July. So there's a lot of reasons to pump the brakes on this, but it's definitely something worth pointing out. Total precipitation, because of all of this, I mean, we really end up with a rich amount along the more deeper south areas and then up that eastern seaboard. Another area to watch would be the northern plains and upper Midwest for a lot of activity. Looking at the anomalies, though, I mean, we really only see some areas of above average for this deeper south area, and especially, again, where we have those tropical concerns nearby Florida. Looking at the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, here's day one for today on Sunday, June 29th. This is a little bit of a late night special, so this is just for the rest of the night. It does last until, I think, 7 a.m. the morning after. These run from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m., so this does go for overnight tonight as well. The lighter greens is your general thunderstorm risk area where we expect general thunderstorms, but we do not expect severe weather. But these are very, very hard to predict, so heed every watch, warning, and advisory. We have two darker green areas there, and that's your level 1 marginal risk where we expect isolated severe weather, and we have two yellow areas there where we expect scattered about severe weather. We call that our level 2 slight risk region. And again, this goes for overnight tonight. Looking towards tomorrow, Monday the 30th, very large general thunderstorm risk area, very large marginal risk area, and we have another one there for California and Oregon. Definitely don't be surprised if we see a slight risk upgrade somewhere within this marginal risk in the east, but don't be surprised if we don't. I'd say it's a 50-50 shot. Day 3, which will be for Tuesday, July 1st, another day where we have this very large general thunderstorm risk area. That's going to go for most days in the summertime, especially the heart of the summer like we're in. We do have two marginal risk areas. One is much larger than the other, and it even has a slight risk there for the heart of the Mid-Atlantic. So keep that in mind as well. Now, as we kind of turn our attention towards the tropics, we see Tropical Storm Barry there. We will look at the cone forecast for that one, but I can tell you that it is expected to pretty much dissipate after it hits this coast of Mexico, which it is doing pretty much currently. So it did reach tropical storm status, as you can see, but we do expect that to quickly drop to tropical depression and then post-tropical system. We do have this yellow area here where we have a 0% chance over the next 48 hours and a 20% chance over the next 7 days. We will be watching this. Of course, that's how Barry started out as well, as this yellow risk, this kind of 20-30% area. And then it suddenly jumped to a 70% chance red risk by the second day, the day after that. So these do typically start out as these low yellow risk areas, and they do typically climb from that, or they basically don't do anything. So we're either going to see this fizzle out, or we're going to see this continue to climb in probability. But we typically, I guess the point is, all that stuff seems obvious, but the point is we don't see these start out as orange or red risks. You know, it's not standard. We usually see them start as yellow. So this has just as much potential as anything, really, and we'll be watching it closely. Again, for that cone forecast for Barry, we can see by 1 a.m. tonight, it's going to be a tropical depression, and by 1 p.m. tomorrow, it's going to be a post-tropical depression over central Mexico. It's going to basically break up from that point forward. Now, with all that being said, we upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.